This is going to be my presentation on the FCC and censorship in television and how we can help this agency to really benefit our society and start making some inroads in all this smut that we're seeing on TV. So in 1934, the FCC was created with the design, and it was designed to place regulations on radio. It was a different time back then, and really the standard of offense was a lot lower. So, for instance, like in Gone with the Winds, when he said, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn," that appalled all audiences all over the place, and the FCC was quick to jump in and fine. And it would have been great if it would have stopped there. It would have been awesome if that would have been the last time we ever saw something that really offended us on television. But demands changed. We wanted more and more provocative television, and the FCC has really struggled to keep up since then. So what the FCC has done in an attempt to cull this outbreak of offensive television and radio broadcasting is they levy pretty severe fines on the broadcast networks. There's been Supreme Court cases of the FCC versus Fox, the FCC versus the Howard Stern Show, Sirius Satellite Radio, all that stuff. There's been some pretty heavy fines levied for fleeting expletives, is what they call it, and that's vague uses of the F-bomb or just real offensive stuff, and they're doing this to try and stop the outburst of this really provocative kind of broadcasting. And unfortunately, society is demanding more and more provocative television. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to stop the popularization of violent television and radio by levying these heavy fines. And they reprimand the broadcasters for putting out this offensive material. So I think what we should start doing is, this really doesn't seem to be working. So maybe we need to cut back on the amount of time that a network has to air before it's paid programming. But we really need to make it unappealing to these broadcasters to keep producing such appalling television and radio. So the fines need to increase. There needs to be harsher penalties, because this is going out on our airwaves. Your children are seeing this, and a lot of kids, both parents work, and so they're forced to get their values from television. And that's why we see this steady decrease and this cultural decline that we've seen over the years. We live in a completely different world now than we did when the FCC was implemented. Things have only gotten worse. There's more violence, more crime. Teen pregnancies are at an all-time high. And it's because all this stuff is glamorized on television, and we're really not doing enough to stop it. So I believe that if we really devoted our efforts into stopping the kind of content that we're seeing on TV right now, we would have much more quality programming available on the airwaves. I remember growing up with shows like Full House and Boy Meets World and stuff like that, and there were some risque things, but they were really few and far between, and it was more about growing up and just typical struggles, and people related to that back then. And it was a better time for television. The shows were better thought out. There was more connection. It was more relatable than this garbage. And some of the fallout that we're going to see from creating better programming on our TV is, I believe there's going to be less crime and violence in schools, societies, maybe all these mass massacres that we've been seeing, people shooting up schools, movie theaters, and stuff like that. If we stop glamorizing these kind of activities, if we stop giving our money to broadcasters that made this kind of thing seem so appealing, then maybe we would see a lot better results in our society. So what can we do about it? It seems like the FCC is really the only agency that has anything to do with the monitoring of television and radio. So what am I proposing? Maybe we give the FCC more money. Maybe we help fund them, because in the end, the dividends are going to pay us off immensely. Like I said earlier, crime, violence, all these things are going to go down if we increase the quality of content on our airwaves. Another thing we can do is, instead of putting all the onus on the FCC, perhaps we can give incentives to broadcasters for making family-friendly programming. If those shows aren't initially popular, maybe we can pad their budget a little bit more to keep it on the air and really give it some time to grow and become a good program like we've seen in the past. Also, we can create more educational programs for youth, get people excited about learning and watching quality television, and get a following behind that. Create new channels that appeal to a higher brain function than the kind of crap we see like Jersey Shore and all that nonsense that's been so popular in the past. And if we do this, I really think we'll see a lot of benefit for our society.